everyone. My name is Shabnam. I'm excited to be here with you. I'm a speaker, blogger, and Microsoft Data Platform MVP. I have put the slides for this presentation on my blog, and I also put the link for that in the chat. I think Michael, the chat, I don't know if it came through or not because I put it slightly before the session started. So feel free to go there and look at the slides there. I have some references in there that are very useful to keep up with all this content. So with that, I'm just gonna turn my camera back off so we have better bandwidth, and then we'll continue. Okay. All right, so do you guys still see my screen?
We do, yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so this session is about sharing content in Power BI, and the reason I put this together is because I ran into a lot of people who have trouble understanding, keeping up with all the options that are available for you to share in Power BI. So I myself, about 2 years ago, I was very confused about workspaces and apps and how to share and all that. So I put this thing together to bring some of these concepts, all of them in one place. However, it's kind of hard to keep up with it because things change, and some of the sharing for the sharing of report options actually changed in the last 2 weeks or so. So this is not a session about how to create reports. This is for how to share them. It does not include anything about Power BI report server, on-prem report server, or sharing with outside of an org or embedding with API. So this is more of a beginner. Let's just get started with the basic options. There are many ways that you can share content in Power BI, and depending on your audience, licenses, and all sort of stuff, one or the other may be the better choice for you. If you don't want to share with the Power BI service, let's say you don't have access to it, so you only have Power BI desktop and you want to share, you can always email it to your coworkers. Of course, if it contains data, you must make sure it's encrypted. Or you can put the file itself on a shared drive, OneDrive, SharePoint documents. So this option is always there for you. If you want to share with the Power BI service, then you have many choices. So you can share out of a workspace. You can share using an app workspace. You can embed in Teams. You can embed in SharePoint. So multiple ways. Now, from all of these different ways of sharing, the best way to share is with an app. And we're going to talk about the reasons of why sharing with an app is the best way. But as we go through the options, if you get confused, remember, app is the best way, the recommended way to share, especially with a large audience. So before we look at the Power BI service and the options, let's talk about a Power BI file itself. So when you work with Power BI is both a modeling tool and a report creation tool. If you connect to a live data set that someone else, a Power BI data set that someone else has already published, or to an analysis services data set, then in Power BI, you're just creating the visuals, your report layout. The file itself doesn't contain any data, right? On the other hand, if you open up Power BI desktop and start with import get data, and let's say you import data, then you're using Power BI as a modeling tool and report creation tool at the same time. Now you can still have a model, but it can be based off of a direct query. So in the direct query mode, your file doesn't actually contain the data itself. Now, why are we talking about this? The reason is that when you go to share these Power BI files, whether you email them to somebody, put them on a shared drive, or publish to this service, depending on which one of these files you have, your end user may or may not be able to get to the report. So for a moment, forget about all the licenses, workspace types, and all that stuff that we're going to get into, just the file itself. So if it contains data and you give it to somebody, they can open it up and they can see exactly what you saw when you last refreshed it. But if it's using direct query and it's using that person's credentials, that person needs to have access to the back end. Same thing with the live connect one when it's just the visuals. So keep this in mind as you share these files with other people. So this is going to be the final layer of once they get past all these other things, when they eventually get to the report, this is still important for you to remember. Okay, so let me go to a quick demo. I'm going to show you Power BI Desktop, and this is my report. And in this report, I have used Adventure Work Sample Database. I can tell that this actually has the data in it because I can see the data tab here. I can click on it and I've already imported everything. Here is an import. So this file contains everything. Now I'm going to go and say publish. When I click on publish, it's going to give me a list of workspaces that I have access to, that someone before me has given me permission to deploy to. So I'm presented with a list of places where I can put my report out there and I can collaborate with my coworkers. So everybody will see my workspace. It's sort of like your playground, right? In addition to that, you will see a list of workspaces that you have access to. So I'm going to pick this workspace, ABI Premium Workspace, and publish to that. Now it's going to tell me I've already done this before, so it's telling me that you want to replace it. I'm going to say yes. And this will come back with a link that I can click to, and it will take me to Power BI service. But I'm not going to do that because my default, it is going to use my default browser. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this and go to Power BI service from here. Okay. So let's take a look at the Power BI service. So when you log into Power BI service, you go to your home page, and on the left-hand side, you see there's a tab for workspaces. When you click on it, this will show you a list of workspaces that you have access to. Everybody has access to my workspace. In addition to that, you're going to see the same list of workspaces that you see from Power BI Desktop when you go to publish. Now, notice that these have different icons. This one doesn't have any icon. We're going to talk about all these different workspaces. Now, before we get into that, let's go to this one that I just published to. This AdventureWorks demo is the one that I just published to. So it's 2:10 p.m. here, and that's the one that just got published. Now, if you look under the data sets, you're going to see that it also took a data set file with it. So when you publish a file to Power BI service, the one that has data in it, it has the model. It will immediately split it into two pieces, into a data set file and into a report file. And the report file will point to the data set file. So in future, if I refresh this report is going to be getting new data. Okay, so this is important to keep in mind that even when you have one file on your machine, but when you publish it up to the service, it's split into two different things. There's a data set file and a report file. And of course, best practice long term is for you to reuse that one data set. Don't keep pushing a data set with every single report file that you publish. All right, now notice something else. Here on the right-hand side, there's a column set included in app. So by default, everything you publish is marked to be included in the app. The app, which you can create from here, I don't have anything created yet for this workspace, is a way for you to bundle your reports and share them with somebody. Okay. Now, before we get to that, let's take a look at why I was even able to see this workspace. Okay, so the way you get to see the workspaces is by somebody giving you access. So within a workspace, you can have different kinds of members. So for now, just know that somebody before me, which is of course myself, I have used my other account. I've gone in here and I've given this account the test pro user that I'm logged in admin permission to this workspace. Okay, so these are the people, whoever is in here will be able to see the workspace and all of its content. So if they go to workspaces, they're going to see the workspace listed. Okay, Now, if I want to share just one report with somebody out of here, I can click on share. And this brings up this new experience of sharing reports with just change, right? And I can give it the name of a person, a group, and that will copy. I can get the link, or it will directly email them and let them know that this report was just shared with them. If I share this way, they won't be able to see my workspace, but if they go under this shared with me tab, that's where they're going to see it. And the difference is, for the workspace, you only want to let in your developers, your QA people, your manager. For your consumers, you want to share the report either directly or from this app that we're going to see in a little bit. Now let's go back to this sharing the report options one more time. Now, let's say that you have shared a report and you want to know who you've shared with. You can click on this more options, manage permissions, and this will give you a list of people who have access and how they have access. And here, these are all my own accounts, so we're all owners. So that's sort of like a highlight, right? You get people who are members of the workspace, see the workspace. And we haven't got into licensing yet. We'll get there in a few minutes. For now, outside of licensing, so you must have access to the workspace, or you can share a report with somebody directly out of workspace. Okay, so let's go back to the slides. All right, let's go back to the slides. So now, as I mentioned before, there are a couple of things that come into play for your end users to be able to see your content. It's the license type, it's the workspace type, and then it's the workspace permission, report permissions, and app permissions. All of these together work or not work to let your end users be able to get to the data. Now, let's look at the licenses first. There are 3 kinds of licenses at the moment. One of them is the free or non-pro, which basically means that your user has access, and it just has a Office license, for example, in your organization. And as part of that, they have free access to Power BI. Then the next level up is the pro user, where you pay $9.99 US dollars at the moment per month, where you get to actually publish content to the service and share with other people. And then on top of that, is this PPU user. Now with Pro, if you just have Power BI for yourself, like I do, I have 2 Pro licenses, so I pay $20 per month for my 2 Pro licenses, but with the Pro license, I cannot get to some of the premium features, right? But now there's this new kind of per person license, the PPU, that you can pay an additional $10 if you already have the Pro, or you can start from scratch and pay 1 cent more, $20 per month. And this one will give you access to the premium features. You won't get a dedicated capacity from Microsoft, but you will get access to a lot of the features that are available in premium. So when you want to publish content, everybody, regardless of their license, can publish to my workspace, my workspace. It's a personal playground. Everybody can publish. On the other hand, you have these app workspaces, which are really meant to be for collaboration with others. And this is where a free user can no longer publish to. So if you don't have a paid Power BI account, you cannot publish to any of them. Now, these fall into 3 categories at the moment. There is the non-premium workspace. Basically, if you get the Pro account, you get the shared workspace, also known as shared workspace. It itself doesn't have any cost. The cost is in the number of user licenses that you have. This can work if you have maybe 10 employees in your company, and it's going to require everybody to have that pro license. The next one is where you actually pay for a dedicated capacity from Microsoft, and that will give you access to these premium workspaces you get. So this one, the cost is in the capacity. It's not per workspace, it's in the capacity that hosts those workspaces, but it does cost money. And then in addition to that, the person who's going to publish to it still needs to have a license. And then finally, we have this new premium per user workspace. So this one is similar to the shared workspace, where it doesn't have a direct cost associated to it. The cost is tied to the PPU license. So you have everybody that publishes to it must have the PPU license. So notice that the pro cannot publish up here. So what can a free user do, right? So which are typically, by the way, business users, they're just your consumers. So they can publish and read from my workspace. The only other place that they can read from is a premium workspace. So a free user cannot read from a shared workspace. A free user cannot read from a PPU workspace. And this is this combination of a a premium workspace and a free user is a very common one in large organizations. So if you have a large organization that has already bought a premium capacity where you can get the premium workspaces, then you can have a few users who have pro licenses, and the majority of people will just have a free consumer license. So if you don't have a pro account, there are still quite a bit of features that you can use. There's this link at the bottom of this page gives you a full list of different things that you can do. Really, you can play with a ton of the features in Power BI. You can even refresh your data set if that's all you have access to. So it's really good for learning. And if you try to do some feature that is not included, Power BI will prompt you and say, for example, hey, you're trying to access a premium workspace, and sorry, you don't have a pro account, we're not going to let you in. And it gives you some kind of offer depending on when you hit it. This message may be a little bit different throughout the year, right? But typically they let you upgrade. You can try it for free for a certain number of days. All right. Now the pro user. So the free is good for you either trying out Power BI or for just your consumers. The pro account is good for people who are actually developing content and or they're testing, right? What they can do is everything that a free user can do, but now they can also publish to a premium workspace, and they can publish to a non-premium workspace, and they can consume. So now they can consume from all of these places. The only place they cannot consume from is a PPU. They can also share. So when you share, you can give access to anybody. You can type in anybody's email, but that person, when they try to get to the content, they themselves must have the right permission. So you can share with a free user, but when they get to it, if this is not a premium workspace, they won't be able to get in. And so if you are a pro user and you try to access the PPU workspace, you get a message that says, sorry, you can't get to this. This is a PPU workspace, so it doesn't let you get in. And finally, the PPU user is like the super user, has access to all of these workspaces. It can publish to all of them. It can read from all of them. It can share and reshare if they have been given permission. And the only people that they can notice that the restriction is that you must have a PPU license to consume from a PPU workspace. Okay. So to summarize all of that, so this is the opposite of the slide I showed you a while ago, where that one was for publishing. This is for consuming. Now, from my workspace, everybody can consume, although it is not a good idea to share out of my workspace in a real company situation. And the reason for that is that Power BI service admins, they can get into all of the app workspaces. They can go and add themselves as an admin and help you retrieve content. But if you put something in my workspace and let's say you do have a pro account, you share out of my workspace with your coworkers, and then for some reason you leave the company, your coworkers can no longer get to the source of what you put in my workspace. So it's not really a good idea to put your content in there for long-term use, because even Power BI service admins cannot get there. Okay, now on the other hand side, on the right hand side, also notice that the only workspace that a free user can pull data from is the premium workspace. So hopefully all of this, I know it's a lot, but hopefully this helps to clarify some of this and summarize some of this for you. Now, so far we've been talking about licenses, right? So remember, we said licenses is one step of the process. The other step is the workspace itself. So let's assume, yes.
So there's a question about licenses if you were going to go on from there.
Yes, can you read that?
Yeah, so the question is, so does every person at a company who wants to view a Power BI report shared with them have to have a $10 per person pro license?
Yes, if all you have is this one, if all you have is a shared workspace and non-premium workspace, then correct. Everybody must have a pro license, and that, depending on the number of people that you have, at some point a premium capacity workspace is going to make more sense. Anything else?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, sure. All right. Okay, so past licenses. So let's say you have the right license and you've got to a workspace. Before you get to a workspace, you must have the right membership to be able to take certain actions, right? So the lowest level of a workspace membership is a viewer. It's a person who can consume reports. So this is suitable for testers, although I still prefer even sharing content with the testers with an app, because app is the final way where most people are going to see your content. So it's better to even not let testers see your workspace. People who get access to your workspace with any of these levels are going to see your workspace listed. So the question is, do you want your consumers to see your workspace listed when they go to Power BI, or do they really just need to see your report in an app? So that's up to you to decide. This is the only level where it's going to honor role-based security, or our role level security, very close to each other, slightly different. Anything above this, they're considered part of your group, and all the data in there is visible to them, even if you have role level security in place. So the next levels up are a contributor, which they can publish, they can schedule refreshes. Then it's member, that they can publish an app. And finally, it's an admin that has full control. So most scenarios, most scenarios that I see, there is one or two admins. It's always good to have more than one admin in a workspace. Then the rest of the people are typically just members. I don't see the contributor used a lot. I just see a lot of members, and then occasionally one or two viewer in there. All right, so that's workspace members. All right, so now let's go to, actually, let me see. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, there's one more license question, just so this is a very hot topic. So the question actually is $10 per user. Is that an annual commitment, or can I test this pro level for 2-3 months and then discontinue?
It's been a while since I got my my license where I signed up for it. I am not 100% sure, but I believe it is a yearly commitment. But if you stop at a certain point, you won't be charged anymore. I'm not up to date on those terms, unfortunately.
No, I think you know if you're in doubt, you know, you should just talk to your to Microsoft. Just ask, you know, local Microsoft about the terms, or you know, they'll probably say when you're buying it as well.
Yes, when you're buying, it will tell you the terms when you're actually purchasing it. It will tell you exactly what the current terms are, and for your region, it will tell you what applies to you. I agree with that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so if I go back, let me go back here to this other, over here. So I'll pull this over here. So this one, I am logged in with my test non-pro user. And if I go here, so this is my free account. And if I go here, I can see these workspaces because I've given this user membership. But if I try with this user to get to these, I get a message that says upgrade to Power BI Pro. If I say not now, it's going to actually roll me back to my workspace. So I can't really get to them even though I see them. Okay. And similar, there's exact same scenario between the Pro and PPU. Same thing happens. You get a similar message. All right. Now let's go and take a look at a couple more slides about the apps. Okay, so we said apps are the best way to share your content with a large audience instead of sharing reports. So when you share a report, it will show under the shared with me tab. When you put your reports into an app, you bundle them and you share the app will show under this apps tab here in Power BI. What apps does is that it creates a copy of your report, and the copy of the report that it creates is separate from the copy of the report in the workspace. Some people like this because it gives you an additional layer. So if you're working with your developers in the workspace, you modify something, you want to run that by your QA team. Once they approve, then you can publish your app. You can update your app, and it will take that report and push it out. So this is one really useful feature from the apps. However, it can also be problematic because sometimes people say, hey, I changed my report, I publish it to the service, but my users don't see my changes. What's going on? The reason usually is that the copy of the report in the app is separate, so the person forgot to push update app. And then remember, apps, always the rules of pro license, non-premium workspace, all of those are always in place. So even when you share with an app that does not belong to a premium workspace cannot be accessible by free users. So if you want to share with free users, your app must be based off of a premium workspace. When you create an app, there's a couple of options. One of them is who you want to share with. So you can share an app with an entire organization. Of course, this is a tenant setting that must be enabled for your tenant for you to be able to do this. And it can be restricted to certain people in your organization, which is, by the way, good practice. If you have a large organization, you don't want everybody to be publishing apps all over your organization. So I highly recommend that you limit that. But when you choose to share with a group of people, you get the option of installing the app. What this means is that when people log into Power BI, they're going to go to their apps folder and the tab, and they're going to see the app listed versus having to go to the store and search for your app and install it. And this has pros and cons when it comes later on to embedding in Teams or SharePoint Online. This can have some consequences. If you don't install the app for your end users, when they get to Teams or SharePoint Online, they won't be able to see it, unfortunately. So again, pros and cons, but then on the other hand, if you install every single app automatically with large group of people, sometimes in larger organizations, people get upset because their apps panel gets cluttered and they don't want to see things. So that's another thing to consider. And as I mentioned, this is a tenant setting that must be enabled for certain people. And when you are sharing an app, you get the option of letting people to build off of your data set. And this will allow them to create their own reports off of it, or analyze in Excel, or use the XML endpoint to connect to it. This build permission, you can give it directly from an app or from a workspace report. So regardless, when you do this, people can then analyze in Excel, you can build content. And again, the premium workspace, non-premium workspace, and the free user criteria come into play. So if you are a free user, you can build from a premium workspace if they gave you permissions, but you can't publish it. So not a lot of use. And this being able to build off of a data set, off of a shared data set itself, is also something that your tenant admin needs to enable for your organization. One use case, so what's a good use case of this? So there is a limitation right now where one workspace can only have one app. So if you have two sets of users, and let's say this is not a security criteria, but you truly have two set of users that you want to share bundles of reports with, so you want to have two different apps. How do you do that? So the way to do that is to enable these shared data sets and have two different workspaces, but have your second workspace build off of the data set in your first workspace. And each workspace can have their own app, and each app is going to have its own set of users, but in the back, you're still using one shared data set. They just see two different experiences of reports. So this is not rollable security, but this is just the experience of what they see bundling. This is a bundling method. All right, let's go to a demo and I'll show you what I had in there about the report links.
Shabnam, before you go over to the demo, there's one question. The question is an app like one made in Power Apps?
No, it has no relation. That was the question, if it's any similar to that. No, it's not. Yeah, it is not, unfortunately. And I know it's very confusing. These are called, I think the full name for them is Workspace apps. So they're not the same thing. So let's go in here and you'll see that in one moment. Let me go to, okay. So if I go here to the apps, I can see all the apps that I have access to. This has been pre-installed for me, and I can delete it. See, I can delete this one, and I can go to get apps, and if there are other apps that have been published in my organization, I can see them. So this is something that I've published before, and these are just some Microsoft sample apps that I can add. Okay. All right, so let's go back to the workspace. Let's create an app. Go to my premium workspace. So see, I have two reports here. Both of them have been checked for include an app. I'm going to say create app. So here, really, an app is a bundle of reports. That's all there is to it. It's a navigation panel and bundle of reports. So I give it a description. And then in the navigation pane, I can choose the experience. You can have a navigation bar, you can, or not, you can just get a list. It's more common to have a navigation bar, and I can change the order of the reports here. I can hide one of them. When I hide it, what this hiding is good for is if you have a drill through, so you want people to get to this report, perhaps with some pre-selections. That's the use case of hiding this report. Okay, so we leave it like this, AdventureWorks and the pool company as a second. And let's see, the advanced just gives you the size of the navigation panel. So this is all we have in the navigation. Now let's go to the permission. All right, so this is what I was showing you. As soon as I click entire org, this install app becomes disabled, which is expected. However, if you have broad AD groups, you may be able to achieve similar behavior, but it's not recommended. So I'm going to say test non-pro users. So I'm going to share this with whoever I want to share with. I can allow that user to connect with the build permission is here, and I can allow them to reshare, make copies. That means they can create a copy of it in my workspace. And this message you see up here is because one of the reports in here is using a data set that's in another workspace. And what this is saying is that when people open it up, that target data source, that target data set should let them in. If they can't get in, they're not going to get in. Okay, now I'm going to say publish app, publish, and this is going to create the app. It gives me a link, or I can go click on go to app. So I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to put the link here. And this is an app. So I have my 2 reports. I have individual pages on them. And and from here I can export, I can chat about one of them in Teams. So this is the app. And let me go back here. I close out of here. So what happens if you lose the link for the app? You want to get it back. You can click on update app. It doesn't do anything until you click on it again. But if you go under the permissions and you go under links, this is where you can find the link to your app again if you want to give somebody. Now, this link does not change. No matter how many times you add reports to it and you update it, this link is not going to change. However, this link, always when you put it in the browser, it rolls to the first report in your app. So if I take this one and let's put it in Notepad here, okay, and let's go to here. I'll do that again. Let me close this, new tab. I'll put this in, and if you watch closely, this is what we start with, but that is not what we end with. It will change. You see that it redirected. So it redirects to the link to the first report. This can become problematic if for some reason you decide to remove your first report from your app. So that will break your app. If your users bookmark this one, then you remove the report. This is going to break your app. So you have to either train your users to use the apps blade here and favorite your app from here, or they need to bookmark the original link, not the link that it rolls to. So if I bring this down, you see that we started with that, but we ended up with this. Okay. All right, so let's go back here. Are there any questions about apps so far?
No questions.
Okay, good. All right, so let's look at a couple of other sharing options. All right, so the other sharing options that I wanted to talk to you about are sharing in Teams and embedding in SharePoint. Now, sharing in Teams, there's currently 3 different ways. A new way has come out recently. I don't have a screenshot of it here. I'll show you in a few minutes in the demo. So you can open up a report and you can click on this chat in Teams button. What it does is that it will create it will let you pick a channel and it will put a link to the report, and you can put some comments, check out my report, and it will post it. The other way is that in Teams, you can add a tab to your meeting or to your channel, and you can choose Power BI, and then you can navigate to either the app or to the report. This is where it becomes important. If you are embedding the report from a workspace, that's different from embedding the app report from the app. Remember, these are two different things. And if you are embedding the app version, you must make sure that the app is pre-installed for your users, else it's not going to open up. Now, there is a newer way of sharing an app with Teams, and that is now you can have the Power BI app itself in the Teams just as a button on the left-hand side, and you get access to everything in Power BI. All right, and then finally, you can generate these embed codes for SharePoint or other websites. Now, this screenshot again this has changed in the last, I believe, week or so. So this sharing option has moved under the file menu now. So you can find, this is the older experience, but regardless, when you go there, it will generate an embed code, and you can take that, you can put it in a website, or for SharePoint, it generates an actual report link, and you can take that link and you can put it in SharePoint. Okay, and then before we get there, so the final thing is a subscription. So this is another easy way to share, is that you can subscribe, you can find your report, you can subscribe to it. If you're the owner of the report, you can subscribe other people as well. You can define a schedule, how often you want it to go out, and then you'll start getting emails. Okay, so let's go to embedding in SharePoint and Teams. All right, so I am going to go to the workspace and find my report. All right, now I can, from here, I can click on chat in Teams, and this will open up Teams. Sometimes this happens where it keeps loading, and if that doesn't work, click on this try opening a new window, and that usually resolves it. And then you get to pick a channel. So I'm gonna put this in the pool management channel and say something about it, which for some reason it is not letting me type right now. I'm gonna say share, and that's it. It will post to Teams. So let me bring up Teams. I don't know if I can actually get out of the current meeting to show you that in Teams. Let me see. Yeah, I don't think I can get out of here to show you, but if you could see my team working, you would have seen it in my Teams channel. Basically, a message would show and say, hey, this person just posted that. So that's as easy as that is. Yeah, that's interesting because I can't get out of Teams. I can't get into my. All right, well, sorry about that. But let me see if I can show you from here. Let's see if I have it here. That's SharePoint. I think the Teams one is the only one that I don't have the screenshot of it because that was working before. Okay, so let's, I can't show you that unfortunately right now. So let's move on to embedding in SharePoint instead. Back to here. All right. Now, this is interesting. So I'm on the actual report, and this share, you see this has changed. So all the generating the links for SharePoint and everything used to be here. However, they have all moved under the file right now. And that reminds me, one thing that I forgot to show you is that here you can say from here also you can directly post to Teams. So now you can click on chat in Teams. You can do this one. You can, from Teams, you can add the Power BI tab. And so there's like 4 ways to share with Teams, or you can email somebody directly. There's a ton more ways to send content out. And this option itself that lets you share with your entire org, by the way, this is also a tenant setting. This is not something that your tenant admin needs to enable this and give certain people permissions, similar to sharing apps with the entire org. Okay. All right, so let's go to File, and I'm going to say Embed Report and SharePoint Online, and this will generate a link for me. And I'm getting this link currently from the report, not from the app, because I don't want my end users to have to install the app in this scenario. And let me bring up SharePoint. So this is my page, SharePoint page. I can go and type Power BI. And that should bring up the Power BI control. And I'm going to put the same link here. And this will let me choose which page. And that's it. So now I can publish this page and people will have access to this one. So if this is the part that I was mentioning, if you generate this link from the app, people must have the app pre-installed, or at least you can say, put a message on your SharePoint page that says, if you haven't had this app before, click on this link first before this page starts working. All right, so that is the SharePoint, and then and also let me show you the subscriptions. So on the report, you can click on subscribe and you can create a new subscription. You can click on manage all subscriptions and that will take you to the subscriptions that you currently have. Subscribe, so create a new subscription. Just give it a subject. Who do you want to subscribe? If you're the owner, you can subscribe other people. You choose their frequency and some other options, then save and close, and that's it. It will become effective and people will get emails, updates, for example, daily of the report. So let's go back here and just do a quick summary. So if you don't have Power BI service and you don't have the report server, you can share the actual files, but you got to pay attention to whether or not they contain data. Otherwise, if they don't have the data, your user needs to have access to the source of it. And when you share with the service, still the same criteria applies, but now you have options of sharing out of a workspace. You can create an app, which is the best way. You can embed in Teams, you can embed in SharePoint, and all of those licenses and workspace types, all of them come into play when you're sharing from the service. So the best way, again, is with an app from a large audience. I put in the slides, I've put links to all of these resources that gives you more in-depth information about some of the options that I showed you. Finally, this is my contact information. I would love to connect with you. If there are any questions, let me know. That's all I got.
So there is a question.
Yes.
So the question was from Ashok. Do the user needs a pro license for viewing the report on SharePoint?
If it is from yes, so if the report is housed in a non-premium workspace, then yes.
Yeah, it's just the same, right? It's just the same.
It's the same, right? Exactly. So regardless of how you get to the report from SharePoint, Teams, or Power BI service, if you don't have a pro license, the only way you can get to the reports is if they belong to a premium workspace.
Yeah, that was, let me see if there are more questions. So people, there's a last chance to get your questions in if you have any more. There's no more questions at the moment.
Okay.
No, so I think, yeah, there's no more questions. So thank you very much, Shabnam. It was a very informative session. It was great to see. It's an amazing jungle of things that you can do and you cannot do, and I think it's just completely crazy.
Yes.
They do it like this. I really don't understand. But of course, it's variety, and we all like variety. Something for everyone.
Yes, it gives you a lot of different options for sure.
Yeah, but it does confuse people. So that's why we have the odd meaning.
Right, and the ways to share, it just keeps increasing. So I think there's a newer way of discovering content coming to Power BI. Was one of the newer announcements that it's going to make it easier. So right now, when you log into Power BI, somebody must have given you access to the apps or to workspaces for you to know what's out there, right? But there's a newer way coming where people can announce that, hey, this is all the things that are available.
Yeah, it is like a balancing act. So I've been using the audit log basically, or not the audit log, sorry, the APIs to get all the different reports that exist, and then exposing that to the end users so that they can figure out what exists. Because how are you gonna stop people from duplicating things because they're just gonna be creating the same things if they don't know what exists. There's actually questions that came in here now. Could you please explain subscription to emails? So someone must have missed that one.
So you can go to a report and you can create a subscription for yourself, or if you're the owner, you can subscribe other people, and they will get an email from Power BI with the report. And there is an option where you can it can include an image of the report, or you can attach it as an attachment, so they get a snapshot of the report in their email.
Yeah, thank you. It would be interesting if you could, attach more than one page,
Yeah.
It could be maybe 2 pages as well. But you could do something maybe with Power Automate, I don't know.
Yeah, my favorite new visual is the Power Automate visual that the pool company report that I was showing was actually from using the Power Automate. It's pretty cool. It's fairly easy.
Have you got a good use case for that one?
Well, if you're working with let's say if your data source is in Excel, so if you're a smaller company and you can look at your report, and then you want to say, hey, I want you guys to go check out these customers. You can just select a bunch of customers, and then post to your Teams channel and say, hey, account managers, these customers need attention. So you can immediately post to Teams, or you can email the account managers and say, please contact this customer. There's like a world of different things that you can do. And you can also do voting. So you can, that was another example I had in there, where you can actually pass from one table, you can pass information like what's your favorite color, and you can pass that in and update an Excel file and refresh. You can refresh your Power BI data set. So it makes it almost like a full app. It does enable some capacity of write back.
Yeah. So there is another question that popped up. I'm in a small company. I'm the only person who will be developing. I want to publish reports to 2 to 4 others. What would you suggest for a simple, cheaper option? My data source is Excel.
The only way, so the moment you need to share with Power BI service, you need to have a pro license. So I think a pro license for everybody, maybe for 4 people, is the way to go.
Yeah, I agree. It's the cheapest BI you can find.
Right.
Yeah. But again, you know, cheap is relative, of course.
Yes, right. I mean, you could also put it on a shared drive. I mean, that's completely free. You know, you can always put it on the SharePoint folder. But of course, you won't have the navigation experience in the service. Slightly different, but I mean, it's out there if you only got 4 people.
Yeah. I think the drawback also of sharing the Power BI desktop file, like I say, you can. It's fully legal and it's free, completely free. And it's that everyone has the ability to change all the time.
Right.
So aside from the experience, of course, which is not, you know, nice as a viewer in Power BI desktop, but it's perfectly legal to do. But I would also say I would agree with you that, you know, buying just 4 Pro licenses should be available to most companies. Yeah.
Right.
I'm not sure if the price is the same all over the world, or if, you know, some of the you know, countries with lower incomes have cheaper prices. I'm not sure. Okay.
All right.
Anything you want to add, Michael?
No, that's it, I think.
Okay.
So Shabnam, obviously, thank you very much. It's been great.
Thank you.
Hope everybody enjoyed it, and we will get the recordings out there sometime tomorrow or within the next 24 hours, because everybody's tomorrow is sooner. Yeah. And thanks so much, and we'll see everybody in 2 weeks. Thanks. Cheers.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye.